forward. Let's talk about protecting yourself. A teen who was behind a $100,000 cryptocurrency scheme has been sentenced to prison. Graham Ivan Clark, 18, hacked over 100 high-profile Twitter accounts and used those accounts to scam six figures worth of cryptocurrency from people around the world. So if these high-profile accounts can get hacked this easily, how difficult would it be for a determined hacker to target you or me? This is why I love using Virtual Shield, Virtual Private Network. It grants you an extra layer of internet protection by allowing you to browse your favorite websites anonymously. I tried out the top VPNs around the world, and Virtual Shield hands down is my favorite. There's no hidden fees, and Virtual Shield has strict no-log policy, unlike typical VPNs you'll find recommended online. It's fast, secure, it's easy to use. I highly recommend Virtual Shield. Try it today for 50% off by going to virtualshield.com/X22 or click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, Trump and the Patriots, they are ready for the offensive. They're building everything up, and they're preparing to go after the deep state, to go after the fake news, to go after the social media companies. What we are witnessing right now is the great offensive. The people are behind the Patriots. Everything is shifting now. And the only way forward is through transparency, truth, and facts. Yes, the deep state, they're going to try to spin this as best they can. They're going to call it conspiracy. They're going to tell everyone that it's fake, that they hired a company that manipulated the data. But remember, this is just the start. This is just the beginning. This is going to spread to other states. And more states are going to do the audits. Yes, in one state you can say, well, that's just an anomaly. It's just the one state. It's not a big deal. Yes, there was fraud in this one little county. You know, the biggest county in Arizona. But when other states start to audit and they show that there's anomalies in each and every one of these states, it's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's no longer just a small anomaly. It's becoming the truth. See, the truth is going to grow out of the mainstream media fake news, conspiracy theory propaganda. And they're going to have everyone looking at this, which they do now. And those people who don't believe, they're hearing conspiracy theory. It's fake. They're using cyber ninjas. They're paying for this. It's just this one county. It's not a big deal. But they have the focus on Maricopa County. You think the Patriots wouldn't want the focus on Maricopa County? Of course they do. Actually, the fake news is doing all the work for the Patriots. Because once fraud is shown in this county, yes, the fake news is going to go completely haywire over this. They're going to go crazy trying to explain how it's still a conspiracy theory. But that's what the Patriots want, because the focus is still there. Now, other states are going to say, well, wait a minute, let's just make sure that there's no anomalies in our election, because we were using the same systems. We saw the same problems. Let's start doing audits in other places. Now think about what the fake news has done. They brought attention to this. And now people are seeing fraud, 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 fraud in all these different states. Well, now we have to call into question the election, because it's either a coincidence or something happened. And this is what happens in investigations. Because this is an investigation. An audit is an investigation to see what happened. Now, there might be nothing. But I do believe we're going to see something. And I think the deep state players, they know what's coming. This is why they're freaking out. Remember, Trump, throughout all of this, by presenting the cases to all the legislatures in all these different states, they are now changing the laws, hardening the election process. During this time, as the election process is hardened, he's creating a firewall And as this firewall is created, just like the wall on the border, it's getting longer and longer, stronger and stronger. We also have him removing the corrupt politicians in the Republican Party. So he's building that firewall, building the election laws, making them impenetrable, and putting certain people into place. Now, he can do this in the Republican Party. He has control. He has full control. The D's, the corrupt politicians in the D party, the invisible enemy, well, they're going to come a little bit later, because right now we're in the process of exposing what they have done. And as people see this, they'll be able to accept what comes after this. Treason, crimes against humanity, you name it. Because if they can cheat in an election, it's not a far stretch to say they can also commit treason. They can also commit crimes against humanity. So I do believe this is where all this is headed, and I do believe the deep state right now, they're panicking. Because what's very interesting is that the Atlanta mayor, she says she's out. She won't seek re-election, and she's not giving a specific reason. She's saying that the last 3 years haven't been what she wanted for the city. Now, that's very interesting. She wants to leave in a position of strength, not weakness. What does that mean? That's very interesting. We also have Jen Psaki. She's the White House press secretary, and she is saying after a year, she's going to leave her position. Now, that's very interesting. She also said, and this is during a podcast, that she admitted that she tells Joe Biden not to take any questions from reporters. Now, that is very interesting. They won't just let reporters just ask questions that he doesn't know about. Why not? He's the president of the United States, isn't he? Shouldn't he be able to answer anything? Trump did. They just threw anything at him. Why are they protecting him? That's very interesting right there. And why does she want to leave? Now, what's very interesting is that down in the border, we know that we have this national crisis. And the people are watching this very, very carefully. And people know that this is a national crisis, just like they knew riots were going on in 2020. And riots continued past 2020. But what's very interesting is people are also starting to notice that the White House, the corrupt politicians, care more for the people that illegally come into this country than the actual Americans that have been living in this country. Because look what's happening out in San Diego, and Charlie Kirk put this out. San Diego County, California, Democrats just approved a program to provide free legal aid for illegal aliens to fight their deportations in court. It will cost taxpayers $5 million. Can you imagine if they invested in Americans the way they invest in illegal aliens? Remember, they're illegal aliens for a reason. They came over the border illegally. If they want to come into this country, and we have no problem with this, because this is the greatest country in the world, they can go to the port of entry. They can be vetted, just like everyone else. Actually, other countries, you have to go to their port of entry. You have to be vetted if you want to get into their country. Well, the same thing here in the United States. Why do you think we had Ellis Island? When people were coming to this country, did they just hop the border or get off the boat about a half a mile off sea and come in on rowboats and just get onto the beach and just head into America? Or were they brought to the port of entry? They checked for lice. They wanted to know who you are, what's your background. They wanted to see if you're on any type of criminal record or anything like that. They checked everything. The same thing happens today. But you can see the agenda of the corrupt politicians, of the deep state, of the invisible enemy. They're trying to just bring as many people in here. They're trying to blend the countries because they don't want separate countries. They don't want history of a certain country, of a certain people. They want everything blended because when everything is blended, entity. Just like if you made everyone wear a gray suit, get the same haircut, have the same sex, there's no identity. Sound familiar? This is what they're trying to do. Now, with this pandemic, you can see there are certain governors that are still pushing their agenda. Now, as time goes on, the people of this country, they are going to see who the governors are that are dictators and those governors that really want to benefit the people. And they're going to see the free states and the dictator states where they're under full control and they're told what to do all the time. And we have Governor Jay Inslee of Washington. He is now creating orders that we need to have vaccinated sections and unvaccinated sections. Just like in New York with Cuomo, they're separating the people. They want them divided. They want them attacking each other. So let's go back to post 4,943. This is October 30th, 2020, and it says, divided you are weak, divided you fight each other, divided you pose no threat. System of control. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to divide the people with race, trying to divide the people with vaccinated, unvaccinated, and they're going to continue to do this. This is how they keep people very, very busy. Now, what's very interesting is that Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, we know that she went down to Florida and she said, well, she had to visit her sick parent to help him out. But there were a lot of people that had sick parents that needed help and they weren't allowed to travel. But we come to find out that she flew down to Florida on a private jet. So wealthy business people allowed her to borrow a private jet to secretly travel to Florida during the lockdown. Now, who paid for this jet? One way or another, they're going to be paid. Now, it's either Gretchen paid out of her own pocket, the taxpayers paid, or she made a deal and she'll pay them later with maybe some type of legislation that will benefit them. There's always a payment in the end. And this is very interesting. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that this whole story about India, where they're facing this second variant of COVID, and the whole entire country is ravaged by this. Now, does this make any sense? India's right next to China. China's not having any problem here. And don't they make hydroxychloroquine in India? And the people that are on the ground in India, they're saying, we don't know what these people are talking about. It seems that the mainstream media, the fake news, they're pushing this news as hard as they possibly can. Why? Remember, the private ones and central banks still have their agenda. They need the pandemic. They can't push everyone into the Great Reset without the pandemic. They can try, but they'll be exposed. There won't be a reason to say this is why we're doing it. They need a reason. If there was a war and all the buildings were destroyed, loss of life, disease because of war, they can make the case, yes, we need something completely different. We're going to rebuild again, and we need to make a change. If there was a pandemic and the entire economic system completely fell apart because no businesses could be open, because the pandemic was killing people left and right and everyone had to stay home, they could make their case. But everyone is out and everyone is doing what they need to do. So they can't have this. They need countries to be shut down. They're trying to push it. Why do you think Canada has a lockdown? Do you really think COVID is running rampant through Canada now? No. Do you really think it's running rampant through India right now? No. They're using this to push it, to push the Great Reset. We all know about this from the Q Post. There was a letter that was written to Trump, letting him know what their plans were. Yes, it was about the election, but there was a larger overall plan. Now, what's very interesting is that President Bolsonaro says that the coronavirus may have been made in a laboratory to wage biological warfare. Now, this is coming from Brazil's president, and it seems there are more people now pointing the finger to China, saying that they did this on purpose. They released it. And yes, this is it. Trump already told us this. Actually, Mike Pompeo already told us this. Now, what's very interesting is that last August, Trump retweeted a tweet by 𝐓𝐸. And it was a tweet about the CDC saying that the deaths were at 6%. And this actually got her banned because you can't go against the CDC. You can't mention election fraud. You can't ask questions or question anything where it's going against their narrative. So she put this out there. Trump retweeted it. And now she's saying the CDC quietly changed its statistics, again, of fatalities from COVID only to 5% of total deaths and increased average amount of comorbidities to 4. Very sneaky. So when we really look at this, 5% are COVID deaths. Where's the pandemic? It doesn't exist. Remember, they created it out of statistics and fear. There are cures for it, but they hid those from the public. And now they want everyone to get the jab. That's what they're pushing here because they want total control. But the people aren't giving them the control. Why do you think Biden has come out and teamed up with Hollywood, where taxpayer money is going to Hollywood, to try to push people into getting the vaccine? Now, if there's an illness that has a 99.99x curable rate, why in the world would you ever get a vaccine? It doesn't make any sense because how is it going to benefit you? And if there are drugs that actually cure you, what's the purpose of the vaccine? Why do you think they hid hydroxychloroquine? They didn't want people to know there was a cure. Why do you think they attacked Trump as soon as he mentioned it? Because that countered their entire operation. Now, when people start to learn this, there's going to be lawsuits all over the place. I do believe those are going to be coming. And all these people are going to have to pay up. Now, we know that the people, they have the full control of what happens in this country. Yes, we the people, we are the force in this country. And if we the people come together, we can change anything. Look what's happening with Coca-Cola. Remember, they were coming out and they had this diversity plan and they were one of those woke companies, just like Major League Baseball. They were following the deep state and they were doing exactly what they wanted them to do. Well, the people said, you know something? We don't like this. We don't like what you're doing here. So we're going to show you how we feel. Not by calling you names. We're just not going to buy your product. We're going to buy other products. And when you start to look at the sales trends of Coca-Cola and Pepsi, well, Pepsi is up 9.75. Coca-Cola is down negative 23.7%. That's the power of the people. That's why Coca-Cola now wants to come to an understanding. No, see, the understanding is you went against we the people. We the people do not agree with you. You're going, and I'm talking about Coke, they're going along with the minority. You're going along with this deep state agenda. You're not really looking at who the people are, who buys your product. Now, if we the people can do this to one company, what about the rest? We can do it to every single one of them because without us, they don't exist. If all the people in this country, I don't even have to say 100%, if 70% of the country decides, you know something, we no longer want to do business with you, because that's really what it is. We're doing business with them. We no longer want to do business with you. We're going to do business with this other company. What do you think happens to that company? It falls apart. It crashes. That's it. That's the power of the people. And you can see it right here. That's how much power we have. Let's talk about protecting yourself. A teen who was behind a $100,000 cryptocurrency scheme has been sentenced to prison. Graham Ivan Clark, 18, hacked over 100 high-profile Twitter accounts and used those accounts to scam 6 figures worth of cryptocurrency from people around the world. So if these high-profile accounts can get hacked this easily, how difficult would it be for a determined hacker to target you or me? This is why I love using Virtual Shield, Virtual Private Network. It grants you an extra layer of internet protection by allowing you to browse your favorite websites anonymously. I tried out the top VPNs around the world, and Virtual Shield hands hands down, is my favorite. There's no hidden fees, and Virtual Shield has strict, unlike typical VPNs you'll find recommended online. It's fast, secure, it's easy to use. I highly recommend Virtual Shield. Try it today for 50% off by going to virtualshield.com/X22 or click the link in the description. That's why they don't want us together, united. Because they know they lose. But guess what? Just from this, people are becoming united. Now, what's very interesting is that BLM, who's supposed to be Black Lives Matter, peaceful protests, well, it seems there was a video that was produced, and in Portland, BLM, they were drawing weapons on motorists. They pulled out an AR-15, an AK-47 on Portland motorists. No police on the scene. And they had weapons. Why would they be doing this? What do they even know about these motorists? Nothing. I mean, if they want to have a peaceful protest, fine. But when you start pulling out weapons, this changes everything, especially on cars going by. And you don't think these people in these automobiles are going to be freaked out and maybe run one of these people down? Of course they are. So this is not just about peaceful protests. This is not just about Black Lives Matter. We know that BLM is something much, much larger than that. Actually, just combine it with Antifa right now, because that's who they are. And you can see that their agenda right now is going way past just burning and looting. Now they're taking it to the next phase. Isn't this what the brown shirts did? Absolutely. And you can see the deep state, the invisible enemy, they're becoming very, very desperate. And in those states that say, let's defund the police. We don't need the police. We don't need the protection. Well, crime is going way, way up. Actually, in Portland, the police have responded to 355 shootings so far this year, more than double the number at this time last year. So it seems whatever they're doing, it is not working. And those states and those cities that are saying we need the police, we're paying them better, crime is going down. And in those states that allow weapons where the people can have their weapon, they can carry it, crime, shootings, very, very low. Because where does the criminal go? They go to a place where there's no police. They go to a place where there's no weapons. And they can do whatever they want. Because where do they get their weapons? Do you think they get them legally? No. They get them on the black market. And then they use them for crime. Now, it seems that Trump, he was vindicated once again. The Federal Elections Commission voted to close a probe of Trump and his 2016 campaign, saying it had not found any proof of any violation. On a 4-1 vote, the panel ended the investigation into hush money paid by former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen to porn star Stormy Daniels. The panel said it failed to find that Trump or his campaign knowingly and willfully violated campaign finance laws when Mr. Cohen paid $130,000 in October 2016 to the adult actress whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, and who says she had an affair with Trump. And remember, Stormy Daniels, she had to pay Trump's court fees when she lost. So once again, he's been vindicated. Everything the deep state tries to do so far has failed. They can't make it stick. And Trump put this statement out. This is May 7th. The Federal Election Commission in Washington, D.C. has totally dropped the phony case against me concerning payments to women relative to the 2016 presidential election. It was a case built on lies from Michael Cohen, a corrupt and convicted lawyer. A lawyer, in fact, who was so corrupt, he was sentenced to 3 years in jail for lying to Congress and many other things having nothing to do with me. I thank the commission for their decision, ending this chapter of fake news. Between two sleazebag lawyers, Michael Avenatti and Michael Cohen, we were able to witness law and justice in our country at its lowest. Now, isn't that funny that Avenatti and Cohen, both of these individuals ended up in prison? Both of these lawyers that came after Trump, they're the ones who ended up in prison. Now, what's very interesting is the social media companies, the corrupt politicians, the invisible enemy, they've been censoring everyone when you even talk about election fraud, that someone cheated in the 2020 election. And Buck Sexton put this out. A single journalist or politician was ever kicked off Facebook for trying to negate the results of the 2016 election with 4 years of absurd, reckless Russia collusion lies, in case you were wondering about the ethics of our internet overlords. So in 2016, they were pushing conspiracy theories, right? Isn't that what they call them? Saying that Trump cheated in the election with Russia. That's how he won the election. And it didn't come true. Actually, it was proved to be false. But how many people were taken down? None. But today, for 2020, if you just mention the word election fraud, your account is suspended. It's taken down. Actually, if you go against any of the narrative of the fake news, the invisible enemy, the corrupt politicians, you're suspended. Now, Twitter right now, they are suspending anyone that tweets out the messages that Trump is putting on his page, which is the desk of Trump. So if you take that post and you put it on Twitter and you have a Twitter account, Twitter will just automatically suspend you because it goes against their terms of service. So you can see how far-reaching this censorship really is. And they're not going to stop. This is going to get a lot worse. Mike Pompeo tweeted this out. The left and big tech will do everything in their power to censor conservative voices out of existence. If you support freedom and the diversity of thought, you should be troubled by this. And once again, like I said, when election fraud starts to come out and people start to mention it on social media, doesn't matter what platform you're on, the deep state, the invisible enemy is going to go into overdrive, just like they went into overdrive during the election with election fraud. Well, now people are going to be producing facts because the facts are going to be coming out and people are going to share it. Well, when people start to share it, not just on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and the rest, I think the other platforms, as more and more people share it and more people come to those platforms, just like we saw with Parler, actually Parler's been down, no explanation right now, they're going to come after these different platforms. So remember, if this happens, which I expect it will, always go to the x22report.com. And remember, X22 Report is not on YouTube. If you're going to Dave's blog or X22 Today or any of those others, that is not X22 Report. If you see X22 Report on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that is not X22 Report. If you want to know all the official channels of X22 Report, come to x22report.com, click on the menu that says Everything X22. Under that, you'll see official accounts. Now, what's very interesting is that we know that the deep state, they're calling everything that has to do with the election conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. It's tinfoil hat idiots that want to know what really happened. No, this is an investigation. It's an audit. Just like the IRS does an audit. Just like the FBI, well, FBI is supposed to do an investigation. Just like detectives do an investigation to find out if there was a crime. Just like there's a grand jury where evidence is produced to see if they should indict someone. Now remember, conspiracy theorists, that was created by the CIA. It was created back in the 60s. I do believe during the time that JFK was shot. So anyone that was producing evidence, they would say they're crazy. Those are crazy people. Well, 𝐓𝐸 put this out on Telegram, and he said the phrase conspiracy theorist is doublespeak for thinker, and he put thinker in all caps. Do you think? You might just be a conspiracy theorist. Don't follow the narrative prepared for people who can't think for themselves. You might just be a conspiracy theorist. Why are they quick to label their enemies conspiracy theorists? They are scared of people who think. They're scared of people who don't follow their narrative they are told to follow. That's exactly right. And think about it. Throughout history, all different governments and those people that were thinking, they called them different names. In Viet Cong, they called their enemies reactionaries. In Cuba, the people that weren't going along with the communist regime, they were called dissidents. In China, the Chinese communists called the enemies revisionists, and so on and so forth. Here in America, you're a conspiracy theorist. And now they're moving into white supremacist doing. Now, what's very interesting is that out in Windham, New Hampshire, we can see that the people are getting fed up with the people that are running the election audit. And they decided to start a fund to get Jovan Pulitzer in as the auditor. And the crowd, they were chanting, resign, resign to the board. And the people are not happy with these individuals that are making the decisions. And you can see the people, in the end, they will have the final decision. Now, we know that Biden's DOJ, they're trying to get involved in the audit in Arizona. And the Arizona Republican Party put this out. Federal government has no authority to interfere in America's audit. DOJ interference has nothing to do with violations of minority rights, lack of security, and everything to do with democratic abuse of power and government intrusion in Arizona elections. And they have a picture of "Don't tread on me." And they're absolutely right. They have no say in this, but they're preparing for the fallout. That's what they're preparing for. Now, we know from yesterday and a couple days ago that subpoenas were issued to the Maricopa County Election Board, to Dominion, and these organizations, they're not going along with the subpoena. They're not complying with the subpoena. Now, this is very interesting because this is a subpoena where they have to produce the information that they have. Now, the Maricopa County Election Board claimed this week they do not have the admin access to their county's voting machines. They're saying that Dominion was taking care of all of this. And if that is the case, then the Maricopa County Election Board, they didn't have control over the elections. And Brian Cates put this out. Dominion is refusing to comply with the subpoena and is hiding the second password for their machines. Add obstruction of justice to their long list of crimes. Now, CodeMonkey explained this. He said, Arizona auditors asked Maricopa County for the admin password to get into the machines. Maricopa County, in a last-ditch effort, throws Dominion under the bus by saying they never had the password. What they want: stall the audit by claiming, either truthfully or not, that they don't know the password. They'll be sweating bullets for the next few weeks as they pray that the auditors won't be able to get into the administration panel to see the important logs and settings. What they don't know is that the auditors will be able to easily crack the password and get into the system without the explicit cooperation of Dominion or Maricopa County. End result, everyone learns that the Dominion was running the show in at least Maricopa County. Now, think about what happens when they get in there, because I don't believe this is going to be very difficult to crack. Well, they're going to see the deletion, error, adjudication logs, the settings, everything that was used during the election. This is not going to go well for them. Now, once again, if Dominion was running the show in Maricopa County and other counties and states were using the Dominion machines, if they were running the show in Maricopa County, well, you have to ask the question, were they doing the same thing in other states? Most likely, yes. And what does that mean? That means once this information comes out, they're going to have to audit all the other states. This is what we said in the very beginning of this report, that once one state falls, the rest are going to fall. It's like this avalanche, and the snowball's getting bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you can't stop it, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and the deep state is going to get crushed by it. So that is very interesting. Now, Trump, he put out a statement today, and he said, at 6:31 in the morning on November 4th, a dump of 149,772 votes came into the state of Michigan. Biden received 96% of those votes, and the state miraculously went to him. Has the Michigan State Senate started their review of the fraudulent presidential election of 2020 yet? Or are they about to start? If not, they should be run out of office. Likewise, at 3:42 in the morning, a dump of 143,379 votes came in to the state of Wisconsin, also miraculously given to Biden. Where did these votes come from? Both were state election changing events. And that is on top of the other corrupt, the fact that neither state got legislative approval, which is required under the United States Constitution. And we've said this before. Forget about the fraud. Forget about everything else that they're looking at. These elections are null and void because it did not follow the Constitution of the United States. It didn't follow the rule of law. And if you're not following the Constitution and you're creating laws outside of the Constitution, how can this be a free, fair election? It can't be. Then add on top of that the fraud, the cheating. And that's what we're going to see. Now, 𝐓𝐸, once again, took this last statement of Trump and started to put it together. So the first thing she noticed was the time. It was 10:11. So if you mirror that, it's 11:01. And that refers to November 1st, drop number 34. In drop number 34, you have 11.4. Well, the first line of Trump's statement, it's November 4th. And when you start to look at November 4th or 11.4, what do you notice? It's the legal position of the occupying power. This is what Q has been talking about. This is what Trump is talking about. And this is what we're witnessing today. Now, what's very interesting is if you go back to Red 1, Red 2, Red 3, Red 4, we've been talking about how the military is going to step in. And yes, the military is the only way. But when we look at it in a different way where the military is not rounding up people, they're coming in because of a incapacitated government. The military will take control of the inner workings of the U.S., and the military will go into different cities, especially if there's riots or things like that. They'll maintain control. So think about how the military needs to communicate with each other during this period of time. Well, if you look at Red 5, it's the National Military Command Center, where they'll be able to communicate with all the military around the country. And if you look at the movement of the military assets, the 10th Mountain, 1st Marine, CPSD, and the rest, you can see that they're the ones who are out there controlling the situation. And this is all under the Secretary of Defense instructions that they were given going way back. If you remember Chris Miller thanking Pence during this period of time because they put together something that was very unusual. And I do believe that this is going to be happening. Now, is it going to go Red 2, Red 3, Red 4? No. I think what's going to happen, we're going to see certain things happen. We saw Red 1 already, POTUS Twitter removal. I think with the election fraud, yes, we're going to see central communication blackout, where they're going to try to maintain their narrative. How long will this be? We don't know. But I do believe we're going to see the other steps come into play as time goes on. And they're already prepared for all of this. And I do believe that the Patriots, they've known the playbook. They put this plan together to fight the deep state on their playing field with irregular warfare. This is not about bullets, missiles. This is about playing their game and beating them at their own game. And it seems that they put this in place and it's moving forward. Now, what are the time frames of all this? Well, we don't know what the time frame is. All we know is that the Patriots are in control. The Patriots right now are on the offensive. The Patriots are pushing the deep state. Who's on the defensive now? Is it Trump? No. He's on the offensive. He's now pointing the finger at them. Think about all the people that are doing the audits. They're pointing the finger at the deep state, at the corrupt politicians. Think about what happened in Texas. Think about what happened in Utah. And it's happening all across the country. Is it the boards that are in control, or are the people now, are they becoming the hunters? And those people that were trying to push the agenda, are they now the hunted? Because now Trump, in the position that he is in, the auditors, the position that they're in, they get to point the finger at the deep state. They get to question the deep state. And they get to prove their point with facts and truth. And they're completely transparent. So who's the hunted now? It's the deep state players. They're the one that Trump and the Patriots are now going after. And you can see just by Biden with his Department of Justice, they're defending. They sent 100 lawyers down to Maricopa County. They're on the defensive because the offensive team is winning, and they're trying to block all of this, which means this is just the beginning. All the stuff in Red 1, Red 2, this is the hunted putting up a defensive plan. That's what this looks like. It looks like this is what the deep state is going to do. And then the Patriots, they have a counter plan, countermeasures in place to counter all of this. And I think we're going to see a lot more. I think this is going to be a very, very hot summer. I think we're going to see a lot of things out there. And the deep state, the corrupt media, the corrupt politicians, they're going to be struggling. And we might see a lot of people resign. I think we're already starting to see that. And we're going to start to see the people really push back because they're reaching the precipice. Listen, everyone.